Alright guys, on today's video I am going to show you finally how to bleed brakes. This is the way that I do it. On a previous video I did about a month ago, I showed you how to empty the reservoir for people that are super lazy, or they just didn't have the means or wherewithal to actually bleed the brakes. But this is how you get almost all of the fluid out of the brake system. We're going to be using the ATE DOT4 brake fluid. Your Honda manual specifies to use Honda heavy duty brake fluid. This exceeds Honda's recommendation. It has a really nice boil point. Actually, that's French in this. The boiling point is, the wet boiling point is 386 degrees Fahrenheit. That's very good. We're going to use some 3M silicone paste. This is designed for brake systems. I want to show you how we do that so we don't get air back in the system. There's no possibility to get any air back in the system. That most people, a little trick most people don't even think about. We're going to use our funnel to put the brake fluid in the reservoir. And I've got a bottle. This is an ocean spray bottle I made probably back in, I don't know, the early 1990s. I'm going to use a piece of vacuum line that fits the brake bleeder nipple, and I just drilled a hole in it. This has done hundreds and hundreds of brake jobs, so I'm not going to belabor the point. We're going to get right to it. And you guys just make sure that if you're going to do this, I have the wheel off of the car so I can show you, so it's easier to film. You do not have, at least on a Honda, you do not have to remove the wheel. But if you're going to jack the car up, please put it on jack stands. You could just put it on ramps. However you want to do it, just be safe. Let's get to it. Alright, so I'm going to be using the evacuator that I showed you guys that I use to do fluid evacuations. You can use a turkey baster and if you want, that's perfectly fine. So I'm going to remove the cap, place that aside, and I'm just going to start removing the fluid. There is a strainer in here that I'm also going to remove. Also keep in mind that brake fluid is corrosive and it will harm the paint if you get it on there. Remove it immediately. You can use some of the Wolfgang Uber rinseless wash on a microfiber or soap and water. Okay, so once that's completely emptied, I'm done with the evacuator. I want to show you guys something very important. Please do not use a shop towel to wipe the inside of the strainer or the inside of the cap. And the reason is, hopefully the camera is picking this up, there's lint, red lint on there. All right, so use a paper towel. I wanted to do this so you guys could see what not to do, but just use a paper towel when you wipe anything on the brake system here that the fluid is going to actually go in, such as the reservoir. Next, we're going to refill the reservoir. I've already cleaned around the threads right here. I'm going to remove the rubber dust cap. This will fit a 10mm wrench or socket or brake bleeder wrench. I make sure to only use a 6-point so that it grips all sides instead of a 12-point. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hose and put it right there. Now, if I was to go ahead and crack this loose, it's going to start having some brake fluid come out. But what I want to do, which is what I do differently, is I'm going to take some of this silicone paste and I'm going to put it around the threads. This way, there is almost no chance at all for any air to get sucked in around the threads as I pump the pedal to bleed the brakes. Now, if you have a second person, you could utilize them, and every time they pump the pedal down, you could turn the bleeder, shut it back off. You can still get all kinds of air in there, even if you're doing it that way. I've done it this way for over 40 years, and it has never failed me. So put this on, and I'm going to go ahead and open the bleeder screw just like that. About a ½ turn is all you need, and I'm just going to watch in the bottle for the brake fluid to start flowing out. It will start flowing out from gravity. All right, you can see the brake fluid flowing out right now into the bottle. The reason I do this first is so that the hose fills up completely with fluid, and when I go to pump the pedal, which will speed this up, it will not allow any air to come back in the system. Now, you could gravity bleed the brakes. This is gravity bleeding, and it takes a long time, but you certainly could do that. Just make sure that when you're doing this, you have to keep an eye on the reservoir and keep it filled. All right, so I've made sure the reservoir is full. I'm going to go ahead and pump the brakes very slowly, about 10 times. Okay, now I'm going to check my reservoir, and it's down more than half, so I'm going to go ahead and refill the reservoir. At this point, I'm also going to tighten the nipple back up. Make sure not to over tighten, it just needs to be snug. Alright, so after I've refilled the reservoir, I'm going to remove the bleeder hose and the wrench. I'm going to go ahead and clean off the nipple. This is actually the bleeder nipple. And then I'm going to return the dust cap to the front, and I'm done with this side. So I'm going to move around to each wheel, and I'm going to show you guys, I don't need to show you how to do the other side, but I will show you one of the rear ones when I get to that. Alright, so I've got both of the front wheels bled. I'm going to do the rear, and I'm going to remove, just like I did before, the dust cap off the bleeder nipple. I'm going to place the wrench on here, and we will loosen it just like that. Now, there will always be some air initially come out. You'll see some bubbles, but that is just because of the air in the line. Gravity bleeding is a great way to do brakes. It's not the only way, but as you can see, there's some bubbles coming up, and I'm just going to let this sit here for a couple of minutes before I'm going to give, since this line is further away from the reservoir, I'm probably going to do about 20 to 25 depressions on the brake pedal on each side. Now, there's different schools of thought about you should start from the furthest caliper. Some manuals say start from the nearest. Just get it done. All right. Now, again, as I said in the front of the video, this will probably get out 95% of the fluid. There is some fluid in the ABS module that we will not be able to get out. That usually requires a diagnostic scan tool to activate the ABS to bleed it, and it's just not something that's in the scope of most people. But if you do this is what I've been doing on my Jetta for 20 years. In every car I've ever had, I've never had to, as long as I've had it and maintained the brakes, I've never had to do any sort of caliper replacement or anything like that due to corrosion from the brakes. So after this is done, we'll be back. All right, guys, after you have completed all 4 wheels of bleeding your brakes, you should have a nice, stiff, firm pedal. Whether you have the car off and on, you're gonna have some power boost, but the pedal feels really, really, really good. So this procedure I do once a year on pretty much all my vehicles. It's not hard to do. It literally takes under an hour to do. I don't know how much a shop would charge because I've never had a shop do it. I've always done my own, anything have to do with brakes. So if you feel that you have the skills, I would say this is 2 out of a 5, then, you know, by all means try it. I'll put a link down in Amazon to where I got the DOT4 brake fluid and also the 3M silicone paste. That really does help. If you've got calipers that have a lot of rust on the bleeder nipple, sometimes that helps to seal it. But on one of the wheels I was having a little bit of trouble because the brake bleeder nipple was moving around and it was letting air in, so I just put extra amount of silicone paste around there and it sealed the leak, no problem. This pedal feels better than when I got the car new. So I don't know how they do it at the factory. They do use a vacuum bleeder method. It's automated, but nothing beats doing it yourself, doing it right. So guys, I appreciate your viewership. If this video was helpful, if you have any comments, if you'd like to see any more mechanical type videos, just leave me a comment. If you haven't subscribed, please do so, and I will see you on the next video.